I'm so excited for y'all to meet my next guest. Her name is Asha Elias. She lives with her family in Miami Beach. She graduated from the University of Miami with a degree in print journalism and worked at Ocean Drive magazine. She has contributed to Cosmopolitan magazine and is a regular columnist for Miami New Times. She is the author of Pink Glass Houses, which I have right here, and the Namaste Club, which is coming to you this summer of 2025. I'm so pumped. You guys, you have no idea. Like, I know a lot of you know I moved here to Miami area. I'm in Delray Beach, but honestly, it's so refreshing to find an author with such a fun voice. And I just wanted to bring you guys new authors this year that are going to excite you. I have a lot of friends that are into book talk and all that jazz. So when I told them about you, they're like, okay, I got to read it. And everyone's been enjoying your book. So I'm really excited to just chat with you about all things mom life, mompreneur life, because you do a lot. So how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I've been really looking forward to this and welcome to South Florida. I know it is unlike any other place in the world in some great ways and some not so great ways. Definitely excited to dive into that. And congratulations on your baby.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't believe she's already 9.5 months. Kind of insane.
It
But,
flies.
and I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, she'll be one. It's
Mhm.
really exciting for me to chat with you because I feel that there are so many moms that get stuck in this overwhelm and
Mhm.
we tend to compare with other moms all the time. And the book is so much about that. It's funny to see moms go through the spiral.
So my daughter just turned 12 on Saturday. I do not feel like the mom of an almost teenager, but I am. And my son is 9 years old. When I first started writing first pages of Pink Glass Houses, my daughter was in first grade and my son was 4.
Wow.
Publication to drafts to publication are a long journey. And my life as a mom has changed. My career has changed, obviously. But when I began drafting this book, my kids were pretty small. Motherhood is one of the first times as adults that we have to meet new friends. The first is our first job and their coworker relationships, and there might be some competitiveness and politics, but it seems heightened in mom world
Mm,
because it's all centered around your kids, and nothing is more precious and triggering than your kids.
yeah, it's so true. I just went to a mommy and me class this past August and I couldn't believe the almost imposter syndrome that you would get
Mhm.
in the job career world now going into a whole new, like you said, we're making new friends, we're getting to know these moms, and there's different hierarchies and dynamics. You explore that a lot in Pink Glass Houses. What for you as a mom? I know it now she's 12, but when you were first doing the whole thing, meeting the moms, exploring what role you wanted to have too, whether that was with PTA or just being a mom, what was that like for you?
I think it's really interesting that you used the term imposter syndrome. It's so true because nothing can compare. You don't know what kind of mom you're going to be. You might have an idea. I had no idea I was going to be maternal. Then my daughter was born and I was obsessed with her. The same thing happened with my son. And I didn't want to miss a minute. I thought I would stay at Ocean Drive where I was working. But when my maternity leave was up, I felt like there was no way I could go back, and I was in a fortunate position where I didn't have to. You just don't know. I think in those early days and months and years, you're kind of figuring it out and
Mm,
asking yourself, what kind of mom do I want to be? How involved do I want to be? And I think for myself, I tried to do everything. When I wrote the book, I was the vice president of fundraising for the PTA at my daughter's and son's school, and I did that for many years. I can relate to Charlotte strongly in that way. But I've also had some Darcy and Melody moments where I walked into situations and felt like I was doing the wrong thing, or I wasn't crafting or baking well enough. I wasn't living up to the perfect mom expectations that I felt others had.
With that, in terms of that perfection mentality, how have you been able to get out of that habit of, hey, I don't bake the most perfect brownie, or I can't volunteer for everything because I'm going on a book tour kind of deal?
I think it took a lot of time and a lot of agony, to be honest with you. Writing Pink Glass Houses was a little bit of catharsis for that. Some
Mm.
of my hardest moments in early motherhood were feeling like I wasn't living up to the expectations I tried to set for myself and feeling like I wasn't mom enough and really struggling with that. How it changed over time, you know, they become more and more independent. They need you less. There's less to do. And then you realize, okay, this is a choice now. It was a choice before, but there was so much more to be done. Like in middle school, like I can help out, but really, like she doesn't care if I'm there and they don't need that much. So I think that the expectations for yourself and the expectations from your community change as they get older. And I hope that gives you some comfort because you are stepping into it right now.
Yeah, so we were talking about number 2, slow it down. I think that's such a valuable piece for the listeners to realize as time goes on, they become less dependent on you and more independent, and also celebrating that. It was interesting because you were talking about in the book, I don't want to give too much away because I want everyone to read it, but the siblings between Axel and I'm trying to remember now the little girl's name,
Maddie.
Axel and Maddie, and how there's this rivalry too. And even though it's unspoken, the parent has to go through that as well. You start to compare, or you're worried because one kid is doing great in this area and the other kid is excelling in that area. All of that as a mom can be also crazy. You do have 2 kids. So how have you been able to balance so that each kid feels they're getting their accolades, if that makes sense?
It does make sense, and I think it's a great question because it's the hardest thing. If you feel like you're really helping one, then you feel like you're not with the other. I try to balance, like, on a piece of paper, if I'm taking my son to this many activities, then, like, I'll take my daughter to the same amount. They're at the age where they have something after school every single day in opposite parts of town, and I'm not able to do everything. So I try to split my time so that it's as 50-50 as possible, but also your kids have different emotional needs. You know,
Mm.
my daughter, her therapy is to go shopping with me, and my son hates that. His therapy is like doing a craft with me. So I think trying to understand what fills your child's bucket and trying to give them that to the extent that you can. But also, I took some parenting classes early on and something really interesting because a lot of moms work and a lot of working moms feel really guilty about spending less time with their kids as a result of that. And this therapist was saying that it's not the quantity of time you're spending with your kids, it's the quality. And if each child receives 10 minutes of undivided attention, doing what they want to do on their terms, that is much more meaningful and does more work towards your bond than spending all day with them and you're on your phone or you've got the TV on in the background or you're cooking and not really paying attention to them. So that is a nugget that I latch on to when I feel like I'm not around
I love
for each one
that. 10 minutes of quality time.
on their terms.
I really love that, especially as they get older and they start to pick up a lot more. So, regarding writing the book, I mean, you've always been a writer. You've contributed to Cosmopolitan and you were working for Ocean Drive. What made you decide, I need to start writing this book?
I think a year before I came up with the idea for Pink Glass Houses, I had a similar thought in my head, and it was about a group of moms behaving like children, kind of like just exhibiting their worst behaviors and very, very satirical. And I started writing it, but there was no plot, there was no common thread. It was just kind of me rambling in fiction. And I think I needed to do that. I think that was all kind of background information for me to come into these characters. I think Charlotte emerged really quickly for me. About a year after I'd put that aside, I thought, because I was thinking about plot. I knew I wanted to write a book. I was thinking about plot. I was thinking about these characters. I was like, what if there was PTA race, which just sounded kind of ridiculous to me, but something that moms could get really worked up about. And what if I made that the central conflict of this book? And then I started writing.
It's awesome. You said you felt a little bit like Darcy, Charlotte, and Melody. What brought the idea of doing three separate women versus just one or two characters or choosing a male character to get into the mix?
Oh, I love that. So, first of all, I love multi POV books. I really enjoy reading them. And I'm a big fan of Leanne Moriarty, and she just does it so well. I knew that I wanted to play with form and use newspaper articles and interviews and this kind of mixed media approach. Writing in the different voices and the different medias gave me a break from writer's fatigue because I wrote it in a linear fashion. People have asked me before, did you write all Charlotte and then all Darcy? I went chapter by chapter. And so I was switching up voices every time I wrote, which was
Wow.
really fun for me as a writer to kind of
Yeah.
explore like this event happened there at Thanksgiving. Like, what did Charlotte see? What did Melody see? What did Darcy see? Like, that was really enjoyable for me as a writer. And that's why I chose to do it. And then the second question I love that you asked is why I didn't focus on male characters. And I think that so much of involved parenting is done by women. And I've been on many PTAs and organizations and committees where maybe there's a dad and blessed him and probably doing great work, but it is either 100% or very close to women. And so to me, this was a women's story.
Totally. And it came through, like you said, having those interviews. I thought it was interesting to learn about you afterwards, a big part of the media. So you've done interviews and everything. That must have been really fun to write as well, right?
It was as a journalism major, kind of like going back into that form was fun
Hmm.
and gave me a way to tell the story. For example, Patricia and Donald, I felt like most of the characters in my heart were nuanced and had layers, but I didn't really feel that way about Patricia and Donald. They were very kind of surface and they had so much artifice that it was like, even for themselves, they didn't know what was real because
Yeah.
they concealed it so tightly. So I didn't want to give them first person POV because I didn't think they would reveal anything. So I put them in interview because that's all you're going to get is basically what they would tell a journalist.
That's awesome. Okay. I was wondering, that was going to be my next question. So you beat me to the punch. Now, what do you have in store for the Namaste Club?
I'm very excited about this book. It is also a satire. It's also character driven. It's also multi POV, but it looks at what happens on a yoga retreat when you put a lot of different women together from different backgrounds and one yoga bro with possibly bad intentions. And, I've lived in Florida since I was 7 years old, and I don't see myself ever leaving. Love it here. I think Billy Corbin, one of our great documentary filmmakers, recently said, Miami's a great city, and that is why it's our duty to point out our less than admirable attributes. And I try to do that with pink glass houses, and I go even deeper with the Namaste Club, but it's very Florida sense of place, but also a lot about women's sexuality, female friendships, and other themes about women that I like to explore.
Awesome. Would you say that, I mean, this is your second book and you bring voice to women, especially the Floridian woman? Love.
Definitely. I do have another book that I'm working on now. and the main character is a Miami female. It is a little bit different. It's not as much of a satire as my other books. Miami, in particular, has been underrepresented in the book world, and there are a lot of great voices here doing great work. I think that the Miami voice is getting louder, but I really see an opportunity to talk about this place from a local's perspective.
Yeah. I also think way too often you have seen the detective male voice,
Mhm.
and I love it. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, I love
absolutely.
everything Florida and, whether it's grimy or it's the Ritz and the famous and all that jazz. But I really think what's needed is looking at the local point of view. And you don't get that. It's usually an outsider writing about Florida or writing about
Yeah.
where to go.
Florida, I'm sure this is true of every place, and I'm sure locals everywhere feel this way. Curious to see how you think about where you're from, but
Mhm.
it's very easy to stereotype Florida and Miami. And
Yeah.
people have this almost 80s outdated Miami Vice view of Miami, which is really
Yes.
funny because that was so long ago. And then the
Mhm.
same when it comes to Florida, they have this really pastel alligator, which, yes, like the alligators are everywhere. But I think a modern representation of Florida and Miami has been underrepresented and it is getting out there. There's just so much to talk about
Yeah,
that people don't know.
definitely.
What
Yeah.
about where you're from?
So I'm originally from Wisconsin. I was born in Jersey, raised in Wisconsin, and went to Chicago for college and didn't leave. Lived there for 70 years. My husband somehow got me to move down here. It's honestly the best decision I could have made because the pace is a little bit slower. There is a big health and wellness community down here, which I personally love. And I love being outdoors more. So I've been really enjoying it and meeting. I think people are more into networking, into connecting is what I've been noticing,
Mhm.
at least for my age range. It's pretty fascinating. I've really been enjoying it.
I'm glad you said that because I also think that there's a stereotype about Florida and Miami being rude. Of course, like
Yeah.
we're not going to walk down the street and smile and wave because that means something more than just being casually friendly. But it is a warm place. It is a place where you can meet people and make friends and be accepted into a community. And I don't think that's true of everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I,
Just
I
don't
love
smile at the grocery store at strangers.
I come from the Midwest, so everyone's smiling. And it was a little different for me, but I did live in the city for a bit. So it was mixed, depended what
Mhm.
area I lived in.
When people look at me weird all the time,
Yeah.
I'm a
It's
golden retriever.
I'm like the Chihuahua. So I definitely have the golden retriever energy, but then I shake a little bit. And we have a Chihuahua dachshund. I just like when I look, I'm like, I chose you as my dog.
Oh,
So
so cute.
I definitely think the energy is really cool here. And I'm excited to see all you do in the future and stay connected. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm curious too, how did the ideas come to you as to what you want to write about in the future?
That is the $1,000,000 question because sometimes you can have so many ideas, and for a day or two, you'll be obsessed with it. Like, this is going to be a great book. For example, I was dying to write this Bo Baby wedding gone bad and was obsessed with that. Even wrote like 25 pages. And I was like, I don't have anything to say about this actually, because to write, revise, and try to sell a novel, you have to be obsessed with the idea. You have to lose sleep because you want to figure out who these characters are and what happens to them. And it's easy to lose that. It's easy to
Mm,
think that you've gotten something and then lose it. So, of the 3 books that I've finished, one of them has not been pitched to my publisher yet. There's Pink Glass Houses about motherhood, female competitiveness, female friendship, and volunteering, things that I was really passionate about and thinking about a lot. And then the Namaste Club. about wellness, positive and negative attributes. Yoga, I was extremely and still am involved in the yoga community, and post divorce life, which is something I'm dealing with now. So that was all there, and I was ready to write about it. And then the book that I'm just finishing a revision on, I wrote after my mom passed, and it was kind of processing those feelings. So it has to be something really big and weighty for me that I want to devote that much time to thinking about.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like that for every author, but I do think that there's always an element of processing my own feelings when I'm writing.
Mm. It's very inspiring for anyone that's wanting to write. It's like choose what you know and what you care about. Hmm. You talk about this competitiveness that women have. What do you feel is something we can do as a society and support other women?
Mm.
That
So, in the same breath of saying women are competitive, I've had the most support from women also, both as a mother and in my career. As I was writing Pink Glass Houses, I wanted to have a lot of compassion for these women because even when they were behaving badly, there was some remorse and a feeling of wanting to connect with the other women.
yeah.
I think we're passionate, we're emotional, some of us, as much as we can get in the weeds with negative behaviors, we can come out of it and we are redeemable. So I think openness and forgiveness because again, motherhood, like, first of all, there's a lot of hormonal elements happening right after we have our babies. And there, like I said before, is nothing more triggering than our mama bear instincts.
Yeah.
So I think finding patience with one another and accepting when we aren't acting our best and trying to do better.
Mm, that's really good sound piece of advice. And we're all trying to do better in the end too.
Mhm.
Now, I always ask this question because I feel it's a really important one and it's a big factor of our lives and it's stress. But
Mhm.
I like to flip it on its head and ask, how has stress saved your life?
I think stress causes us to make change, right? Because we don't want to live with it. So we have to figure out how to manage it and get over it. It forces us to be introspective and look at what in our lives isn't serving us. And God, that's a brilliant question. I think in terms of feeling like I wasn't mom enough or volunteering well enough, which inspired this book, drove me to a place that wasn't mentally healthy. It also spurred me to make a change and accept that I can't do everything. So I would pick what I can do, try to do it well, and let go of the rest.
I love that. That's really great. I'm so happy that you guys, I don't usually do this. People are pitching me, but I love the book. I reached out and
Thank
I was like,
you.
Asta, let's talk. I think it would be great. You're welcome. I just want more people to read your stuff. And I hope a lot of my Midwest crew is going to get on this. So once again, this is Pink Glass Houses. I have to do my background because my baby's crib room, but Pink Glass
Aw.
Houses, and it's awesome. It's so good and it's funny, which I also think we all need. We need more
Mhm.
humor, laughter in life.
Seriously.
Life is a journey, but that doesn't mean we have to be miserable in it.
A
So,
100% well said.
how can people connect with you and also read some of your articles?
So I am very accessible on Instagram at asha.stu.elias and welcome DMs and any questions or just saying hi. My biweekly column comes out on Miami New Times. It's called Vice City Pillow Talk by Asha Elias, where I tackle all kinds of different relationship and dating
That's
issues
awesome.
in Miami, which are wild, as you can imagine.
Well, I would be happy to always talk to you about other things as well.
This is so
Welcome.
fun.
Thank you so much for coming on Stress Free Solutions and sharing your gift of gab because, man, I am a big fan.
Thanks, Sarah.
I really appreciate it. And guys, remember that this is a self love journey. Speak well to yourself on this self love journey. And please share your takeaways. We love to hear them. Take care.
Bye.